The story of this film follows a young boy named Josh, who lives with his parents, his father, Fred, and his mother, Bonnie. At that time, Josh had just celebrated his 7th birthday. His father gave him a baseball glove because Josh often played with his friends. One day at the park, while playing hide and seek, Josh accidentally saw a group of people gathered around a chessboard. For some reason, he became fascinated by the different shapes of the chess pieces. Later, after school, Bonnie picked him up and invited him to have pizza, but Josh asked her instead to go watch the people playing chess at the park. Bonnie was surprised and couldn't understand why Josh wanted to come to a place where adults gambled on chess games, despite a sign forbidding betting. Thinking the park wasn't a good place for children, Bonnie tried to take Josh away, but he insisted on staying to watch the match closely. There, a chess grandmaster named Cameron Shirazi was playing. Josh observed the game attentively. Back home, using his toys, Josh built his own chess pieces. It was clear he was growing more interested in the game. Another day, Josh asked his mother to accompany him again. This time, he decided to play against an older man, a former professional chess player who charged money to play with him. Bonnie watched as Josh played and was surprised. Neither she nor Fred had ever taught him chess. Josh ended up losing the match, but what they didn't realize was that a man named Vinny had been watching him the entire time. Vinny asked for Josh's name and wrote it down in the newspaper, convinced that Josh would one day be famous like Bobby Fischer, the youngest grandmaster to ever win the world championship in 1958. At just 6 years old, Bobby had already shown great talent. He used to play against his sister, but when he kept winning, he began competing against himself just as seriously. At age 14, Bobby defeated all the top players in the country and became the youngest national champion in history. As a teenager, he beat Russian masters and became America's pride. But at the height of his career, Bobby Fischer mysteriously disappeared. Sometime later, the family went to a baseball stadium where Fred worked as a sports journalist. Bonnie told Fred that earlier, she had accompanied Josh to the park to play chess, and she had no idea where Josh learned the game from. During a weekend at home, Fred asked Josh to play chess with him. Curious about Bonnie's story, he wanted to test his son's ability. At first, Fred played casually to see what Josh could do, but Josh lost. When Fred pointed it out, Josh replied that he had let his father win because he didn't want to beat him, just like he hadn't wanted to embarrass the old man at the park. Hearing that, Fred challenged him to a rematch, insisting that letting someone win wasn't being a good sport. Josh returned to his seat, this time focused and serious. The second match felt different. Josh even made moves while doing other things because Fred took so long to think. Fred soon found himself trapped in Josh's strategy. Amazingly, Josh even managed to beat him while taking a bath, without looking at the chessboard. As a good father, Fred realized he needed to guide Josh's talent. So one day, they went to a city sports center to meet a man named Bruce Pandolfini, a well-known chess coach. Fred wanted Bruce to train Josh, but Bruce refused, saying he no longer taught chess. Since he couldn't convince him, Fred planned to leave with Josh. While Fred was talking to Bruce, Josh happened to be playing chess with an older man nearby. The game turned intense, catching Bruce's attention. Just from hearing the moves, Bruce could tell Josh was giving his opponent a hard time. Later, Josh played again at the park with Vinny, and their match became the center of attention. Bruce secretly followed Josh there, realizing he might have made a mistake refusing him earlier. The people at the park began calling Josh the young Fischer. That night, before bed, Josh asked Bonnie if Vinny could sleep on the top bunk. He thought Vinny might be sleeping outside in the park. Bonnie smiled proudly at her son's kindness. Elsewhere, Bruce invited Fred to a major chess tournament. The room was filled with the country's best players, former champions like Joel Benjamin, Roman Dzindzikishvili, and Asa Hoffman, who had played in over 200 tournaments a year and won thousands of dollars. Bruce wanted to discuss Josh's potential with Fred. He explained that some people play chess for fun, others as a science, but chess is truly an art. The room was full of people trying to play like Bobby Fischer, but Bruce said they were all just imitators. The real successor to Bobby Fischer, he claimed, was currently asleep in Fred's house. Fred was shocked, realizing his son was far more gifted than he'd imagined. One day, Fred brought Bruce home to meet Josh. Seeing his room filled with puzzles and brain games, Bruce recognized Josh as a deep thinker, a natural strategist. He invited Josh to play one of his test games, and they spent the evening together. Before leaving, Bruce accepted payment and agreed to start training Josh every Saturday. During training, Bruce taught Josh how to solve chess problems without moving the pieces. He also showed Josh a blank master certificate, explaining that to earn it, Josh would need to collect points through progress and discipline. What he had just done was one example. Bruce encouraged him to work even harder. Sometime later, Bruce updated Fred and Bonnie on Josh's progress. He admitted Josh was a challenging student because he often questioned Bruce's methods and used tactics Bruce had forbidden, techniques he picked up from the park. Bruce explained that he wanted Josh to focus on proper positioning, not the fast, flashy tricks used in street chess. He asked Fred to keep Josh away from the park, but Bonnie disagreed, saying it would make Josh unhappy. Eventually, Josh joined a children's chess tournament. During the event, chaos erupted when parents started signaling moves to their kids, forcing organizers to confine them to the locker room. After that, the kids could finally enjoy the competition. Josh dominated his opponents and reached the finals. The tournament used a relay information system so parents could follow the matches from outside. In the end, Josh won and brought home his first trophy. On the way back, he fell asleep soundly in the car. From that day on, Josh continued competing in more tournaments to raise his ranking. He traveled to big cities and kept winning. Even Vinny felt proud of him. After many victories and trophies, Josh's rating climbed. He became the #1 ranked player in the nation for his age group. One day at school, his teacher spoke with Fred and Bonnie, explaining that Josh was falling behind academically, and even more concerning, he was losing his social connection with friends. Fred, feeling criticized, refused to listen. Bonnie mentioned that Vinny had said the same thing. Josh was traveling too often. But Fred, driven by pride, ignored them. He insisted that Josh's talent exceeded everyone's, including his own and the teacher's. Fred told the teacher she didn't understand and told her to stay out of it. He even planned to transfer Josh to a private school, claiming Josh could still meet his friends on weekends. Bonnie warned him that his decision was a mistake. When they were at the park, Josh told Vi about having to transfer schools again. As they talked, their attention was suddenly drawn to a crowd gathering nearby. They decided to join in, and there they saw another boy around Josh's age playing a chess match. One day, while studying with Bruce, the same boy Josh had seen at the park arrived with a man named Robert. Robert wanted to enroll his student, Jonathan, into Bruce's club. However, Bruce refused. Robert explained that Jonathan had been playing chess since the age of 4. Robert worked as a homeschooling teacher because Jonathan didn't want to learn anything except chess. Upset by Bruce's rejection, they both left. Later that night, before going to bed, Josh told his father that maybe they shouldn't go to the national finals. He was afraid that if he won, people would take it for granted since he was already ranked first. But if he lost, they would turn on him. Fred reassured Josh that he had worked hard for this and had nothing to fear. Josh softly replied that maybe it was better not to be the best, because losing would then be okay. Deep down, Josh was already struggling with immense pressure, though Fred didn't realize it. At the state finals, Josh began to feel anxious, especially about possibly facing Jonathan. He knew they would likely meet in the final round. But in the match before that, Josh realized that his opponent was scared to face him, so Josh deliberately lost in just 7 moves. Naturally, Fred couldn't accept this. He urged Josh to analyze his mistakes, insisting that losing in 7 moves was impossible. Josh only said that maybe he just wasn't talented enough or that his opponent was better, but Fred refused to believe it. Fred had forgotten how to be a good father. Later, Bruce taught Josh something new. He forbade Josh from making certain moves, even if Josh believed they were right. Bruce also strictly prohibited him from playing in the park, saying those habits would ruin his structured lessons. Bruce taught that a true chess player must underestimate his opponent, that Josh should think of his rival as someone unworthy to be in the same room with him. It was supposed to build mental toughness and confidence. But Josh disagreed, replying, "No more games in Washington Square and teaching me all the wrong things." Over time, Josh became increasingly reluctant to compete, especially against Jonathan, who kept winning every tournament Josh entered. One day, Josh argued with Bruce. He demanded the master certificate Bruce had once shown him, saying he wouldn't make a single move without it. Frustrated, Bruce handed Josh a blank certificate and told him to fill it in himself. In fact, he gave Josh several sheets, saying they were just worthless photocopies. Seeing this, Bonnie ordered Bruce to leave their house. Bruce defended himself, saying a coach could bring a child to tournaments, but couldn't prepare him from the inside. Because of this, Bonnie and Fred had another argument. Bonnie worried about Josh's mental health. She reminded Fred that he was no longer acting like a father, but like a dictator. She didn't want Josh's kindness to disappear, and warned that if Fred and Bruce continued this way, she would take Josh away. After overhearing his parents fight, Josh refocused on chess. Fred was surprised to find him cleaning his room. Fred told him they didn't have to keep doing this anymore, but this time, Fred began to listen. He changed from a controlling father into a caring one, realizing that even though Josh was a genius, he deserved a balanced life. Fred even suggested Josh could quit chess altogether, saying it was just a game. But Josh assured him that he still wanted to play, and he wanted to win. The next day, Fred moved all of Josh's trophies from the living room into his now empty bedroom. Then he took Josh to the park to play with Vinny. Seeing Josh's smile return warmed his heart. Vinny's way of teaching was different from Bruce's. Instead of strict discipline and precision, Vinny nurtured Josh's instincts and creativity, telling him to forget the rulebook and play freely, to become a creative player. With Vinny, Josh rediscovered the joy of the game. He played without pressure, yet still managed to win. One evening, Bruce visited Fred at his office. He asked whether Josh still planned to join the Chicago tournament and why Josh had been playing so often at the park. Fred admitted he didn't know whether Josh was playing better or worse, but at least Josh was happy again. Bruce warned that letting Josh play like that would only lead him to disappointment. Fred then invited Bruce to come to Chicago, since Bruce had never attended any of Josh's tournaments, but Bruce refused. Eventually, the family went to Chicago anyway, bringing Vinny along. At the hotel lobby, Josh met his old friend Morgan, who was being trained by his father. Before the competition, Fred gave Josh encouragement, but this time, with no pressure attached. As the tournament began, Josh faced his first opponents calmly. As the top-ranked player, he refused to intimidate them, wanting everyone to enjoy the match. Meanwhile, Jonathan was already waiting at the front table. This time, things were different. Josh was relaxed and enjoying himself, while Jonathan looked increasingly nervous and pressured by Josh's presence. Josh advanced quickly, eliminating opponent after opponent until he reached the final, where Jonathan awaited him. Before the match, Bruce suddenly appeared. Josh admitted he might not be able to beat Jonathan. But Bruce, for once, agreed that it was okay. He was there not to pressure Josh, but to give him something special, a certificate he had personally signed. A small gesture, but one Bruce had never done before, and it eased Josh's fears. Back in the hall, the final match began. Jonathan tried to intimidate Josh, but Josh stayed calm and played his own game. He carried with him lessons from both his mentors, Bruce's logic and Vinny's intuition. A few moves in, Josh lost his queen, and both Bruce and Fred began to lose hope. But Vinny stayed optimistic, believing it was part of Josh's plan. Josh countered brilliantly, managing to capture Jonathan's queen instead. The battle continued, both players exchanging strategies until Jonathan made a critical mistake. Bruce realized Josh could now see 12 moves ahead, the path to victory. Josh hesitated but remembered Bruce's lesson, to visualize without needing the board. Bruce smiled, knowing Josh had finally learned it. But instead of finishing the game, Josh offered Jonathan a draw. Fred looked at Bonnie, finally understanding what she had meant all along, that preserving Josh's kindness mattered more than any win. Josh knew he could win, but he wanted to share the title instead. Jonathan refused, and the match went on. In the end, Josh checkmated Jonathan. Jonathan's coach, Robert, scolded him harshly for losing, while Josh, instead of celebrating, felt sad. His friend Morgan was also berated by his own father for losing earlier. To comfort him, Josh listened to Morgan's worries, something Morgan's own father never did. Seeing this, Fred and Bonnie couldn't have been prouder of their son, and with that the story ends here.